What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Help Me Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And week 3 of Mental Health Monday. The last two are in a playlist called Mental Health, along with other videos along those lines. And last week was loneliness. The week before that was anxiety. And so I figured today we talk about something more masculine, right? More macho, and that is anger. And the funny thing is, the most angry people a lot of times are the most sensitive, the most emotional. And I had started when I first started YouTube. I was like, oh, let me do a series on anger management. Right, I'm a certified anger management facilitator, um, and so I thought that might be kind of useful. And there was a little bit of interest, but not much, to be honest. And so I kind of fell off on doing that. If it's something that you guys would be interested in, though, let me know. Let me know, and we can pick that back up, and I can get going with it. But in this case, I just want to touch on anger from a few different angles. And of course, like all the other mental health topics, this is not just for people that have been to prison or people from the street lifestyle or addiction or whatever else, right? I think there's something here for everyone. And let me know in the comments what you want to see, talked about in the future. But for anger, it's funny because yesterday, somebody had asked if I ever, knew somebody or ever had somebody who passed away while I was incarcerated. And I mentioned Pelican Bay and how I got a phone call. And back then the only way you ever get a phone call in the SHU program was with if you had a relative who died in the streets and your family contacted the prison and they could verify that yes, it really was true, then the chaplain would come to your cell, pull you out for a minute, and you get a few minutes on the phone. So I went through that, right? And I talked about it last night. I won't get all into it now, but when I come back from the cell, I was sitting there and I started to get angry. And I got angry because I wasn't home. I got angry at myself because had I behaved in prison and left at my earliest possible release date, I would have been out already. And I would have been there to be with this person, when they passed, been able to see them face to face. She wasn't able to visit me when I was in prison, but she wrote me all the time and accepted my phone calls back when I was on the main line and very expensive collect calls. And so I was mad at myself. About how selfish of you to be doing what you're doing in prison, and if you didn't get into this right after you got into that, you wouldn't have lost this good time. And it's because it was easier, because anger was familiar. I I mean, I guess I was sad, but I wasn't. I wanted to be sad, but there was just a wall up. I couldn't quite get there. And then you hear people talk about being in prison and getting bad news or whatever, and you got to keep a stoic face and you don't want to show weakness or a predatory environment and all that stuff is true. It's less true in the shoe though. Just to be honest, I'm in a cell by myself, so nobody sees me. There's nobody who's gonna be walking by my cell. So the social factors didn't actually exist right there. That's probably a place where I could have really felt my emotion. Uh, I just couldn't. I couldn't get there. I was reaching for it, but i- again, there was a wall that I couldn't. And instead, I get in my head. And when I get in my head, then I get angry, right? Because I find a way to put myself at the center of it and what I could have done different. And that was just all more familiar. That is consistent with my whole life. But the trip is, and I'm curious if some of you guys watching were in the Bay at this time. How was it in your section? But there was a show on ABC, Extreme Home Makeover, right? And that phone call happened like I want to say late September, early October of 2005. I ultimately paroled in December. Uh, about a year prior to that, I want to say like 2004, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but Extreme Home Makeover was a show on ABC where Ty, right, this fool with this goofy hair, hairdo, comes and there's this family that's down on their luck, or the kid gets cancer, or whatever. They have some sad story, right? And so they come through, they put the family, they throw them on vacation for a week or do whatever, and then they they remake their house. They get a makeover, an extreme home makeover, and then they bring them back and move that bus, right? Like, and it was a trip because we would watch that, and everybody in my little section, all 8 cells, we all watched Extreme Home Makeover, and you would hear dudes choke up in their cell. Yeah, it's a very quiet environment. Um, things echo like you would hear guys choke up. I would get choked up watching the show. Right, there are emotional moments in it. Like it, it just was what it was. Uh, and and these are tough guys, right? I'm not a tough guy, but the rest of the guys in the section were these were tough guys. Some of them, particularly, and and yet here we are all getting choked up over a TV show. But yeah, when I get a phone call that my relative died, I'm not able to get there. I'm not able to reach those emotions. And and I think it's evidence, so to speak, right? We are very emotional people. We're emotional creatures. Whether you want to be or not, it doesn't matter. With very, very, very few exception of sociopaths, which is an overused term that applies to a very, very, very small segment of society, right? With the exception of them, we're all emotional. It's it's just how that plays out with us and how we're conditioned and our culture and society and all this other stuff um impacts how we show it, but it doesn't change that we are. And I think it was easier to show emotion and to some degree kind of extreme emotion, you know, because that TV show had nothing to do with us. We're disconnected from it. It's you're watching something on TV, but you have no stake in it at all, and and it has no relevance to anybody in your life, right? It's and so it's able to pierce through the veil a little bit and tug on your heartstrings because there's no consequence, there's no practical effect. You're not really sad watching it, right? You're just reacting to the show. Whereas stuff in your life has an impact on you, and prison just teaches us, and the streets too, to a degree, just like numbs us. We're desensitized to the range of emotion. But anger, there's always room for anger, right? And anger is comfortable. Even when anger produces way out consequences, and we know what those consequences are, and sometimes it's horrific consequences. We don't care because we expect that. We know what to do with anger, and we don't really know what to do with the other stuff. But they say anger is a secondary emotion, not in priority, right? It's not that it's lesser value, but it is a defense most of the time, not always, but 99% of the time, probably. Anger protects us from that thing that we felt right before we felt anger. But sometimes that moves so quick, we don't know what that first thing is, right? So we're grieving, we're sad. We don't feel that sadness, but the anger is familiar. We're scared, right? We're fearful. But that fearful to feel fear is is dangerous, right? So and it's difficult and we don't really know what to do with it. So our brain and our system pushes past that so quickly and lands in anger that we feel like and we seem like and we might look like we're just angry. We're not just angry. We were fearful before we were angry. We just didn't know it, or you didn't know it. And I remember there's this reentry program in East Palo Alto at Free at Last, and and became county funded. Shout out David Lewis, who started Free at Last many years ago. Formerly incarcerated dude from EPA. He lost his life many years ago. In a weird situation. Maybe I'll do a video about that one day. But Free at Last is a program he had started, and it wound up being county funded. And they started doing reentry work, right? So they had county employees that would come in, and it was right there on, I want to say on Bay Road, and the girls running it, right? This particular day, there was a girl running it who probably wasn't even born when the guys that are now in this reentry program when they went to prison, right? They're older cats. They've been down for 20, 30 years, and people have started coming home, and so they'd come home to East Palo Alto. For the most part, they're all black dudes because that's what most of East Palo Alto was 30 years prior. And so they're sitting in this room, and I'm there, but I'm not there to teach the class. I'm not don't really have anything to do with the class. I'm there for something else, talking to somebody, but I see what's going on. And there's three or four guys sitting in there, and she's at the front, and they got these computers at these desks. And so this dude is sitting at this computer, and there's more computers than there are people, right? This dude's sitting at the computer, and he gets up, right? Oh man, and goes and sits down in front of another computer. And he's kind of messing with it a little bit. And then he gets up and he hits the screen. Man, this fucking shit's broken. And flashes, right? And is just throwing temper tantrum. He's just flashing. Big ass dude. And he's pissed. And he goes and stands over in the corner. The girl looks like she's about ready to call 911. Right? Oh my God. This big old angry black guy that just got out of prison. Right? Like, what am I gonna do? And I don't know who the guy was, but I was like, hey, I said, hey, bro, come here. What's going on? You part of it? Yeah, man, reentry program, this and that. I said, what's going on? Man, they trying to make us use these computers to do these resumes, and none of the computers work. They keep giving me a broken computer, and the shit don't fucking work. Man, this shit you should have known, and that's why it's the hood. And he just has this whole narrative that he's just popping off with, right? About all the economic injustice and how this never gonna work, and he's mad as fuck. And I was like, okay, well, come on, man, let me see him take a look. I said, I ain't no computer whiz either, bro. I've been out just a few years, but let me see. All right, man, this shit don't work. I'm telling you now, this shit don't work. Okay, let's see. So I sit down at the computer, and I don't know a lot about computers either, right? So I'm kind of fooling around with it, trying to see why it won't work because I had seen what had just happened. And long story, at least a little bit shorter, it hadn't turned on the monitor. He had turned on the computer, but there's a power button on the monitor. So he got the computer going, but he couldn't see anything, obviously, because a monitor is a different power button. It's like, ah. He's like, man, why does it work for you? I said, no, but bro, that ain't on you. Like, these computers are weird, bro. That's why they donate them. And I played it off, right? Like, these computers are crazy. A lot of stuff, you just hit the one power button. This has another one. You got to reach behind here. You can't even see it. Like, you just got to feel for it. And they probably just didn't even tell you. No, man, she didn't tell me that. I know, bro. She's probably not used to these computers either. So what I did was take it off of him. It's not your fault that you don't know how to turn on this computer. And it really wasn't his fault because the dude just got out of fucking prison, right? So it wasn't his responsibility to know any of this stuff. The lady at the front of the class is assuming everybody knows how to turn on a computer. Everybody knows there's a button on the monitor. Like, how are these guys supposed to, start a resume, build a resume if they don't even know how to turn the computer on? Which is my exact point about why I felt like some of those classes were bullshit. Like, it looked good on paper, but this dude been in prison 25 years, and you want him to do a resume, right? There's some more basic skills that come before that, right? But that's a whole nother topic. That's my issue with some of the reentry stuff that is put together by people who haven't actually done time or are close to people that have done time, so they don't realize where the struggle really starts. But nonetheless, he got angry. But why did he get angry? Because he's embarrassed, because he's insecure, because he's scared, because all those feelings that we don't know what to do with, right? But we still feel them. They're still there. And that's why you have some guys that seem like, man, you get angry at everything. It's because they're sensitive. It's because they're feeling stuff and don't know what to do with it, right? But again, anger is okay. And one of the worst things you can do to somebody or try to do when they're angry and raging, like that situation worked out well, but I was able to de-escalate because I was an outside person, right? And And because I understood and I had done time and I looked like I done time, like we were cool, right? But a lot of times, what you don't want to do is try to have a conversation with somebody when they're flashing, when they're angry, right? And they're at that rage point. And really, I didn't have a conversation. I went to the computer and fixed it, um, but you don't want to do that because anger is about outward. When I'm angry, I'm pushing out. I'm building up a wall. I have my defenses. Nothing's coming in, and I'm lashing out. I'm gonna strike you. I'm gonna chase you. you know, I'm gonna do something to you. So I'm not open to receiving your words. Like you want to talk now? Fuck no, I'm hot. I don't want to talk about nothing, right? And and you trying to talk to me is just gonna make me more angry because again, it's triggering emotions that I'm not dealing with. And so sometimes people are like, oh, just talk them down, talk them down. You got to be careful, right? You got to be careful, and there's something to be said for taking a break. It sounds cheesy, like, hey, we'll go take a walk around the block type thing, but there's real value to it. Like there's a science to this stuff, right? Our bodies and our minds and our systems are remarkably similar from person to person, right? They may look different on the outside, but the way they function is, it's not new, right? We know a lot about that, and that cooling off and letting the emotions subside a little bit is kind of a reset button, and but then I've noticed also when folks are angry and they're flashing and then they start to reset, somebody wants to come in and address the anger, right? Hey, bro, when you're angry, you can't. Da, da, da. Wait, wait, wait. Now we're gonna talk about the very thing that led to the need to take a break, right? It's There's a time and a place for different conversations. I know in relationships that shit will happen, and I used to get frustrated with my ex. Look, I ain't gonna talk about it. I ain't gonna talk about it. And I would feel emotions, and I didn't know what to do with those, and anger started to build up, and I knew I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to act out of anger, so I just needed to pause. Just I just let me shut down, right? I can't be a part of this. No, it now you must not love me, or you must not think this is serious, or you must this, or you must that. Throwing a lot of accusations at me when I'm already angry and I'm trying to control myself because I don't want to lash out probably isn't the best recipe, right? And but then they're angry. The other person's angry, so they're lashing out in their anger. You this and you that, and I think for at least for myself and for a lot of us, we don't know what we're feeling. We're just feeling stuff, right? But we don't know what that is yet. And so we don't know how to process it. It it's a lot of insecurity. Really, I guess that's what it is. It's we don't know what's going on. I can't quite, put my finger on it or put a language to it. But in that uncertainty, the anger stuff, because that's a defense, right? That I know what to do with. That will protect me. I don't know what's going on around me, but I know if I'm angry and my guard's up, I'm gonna be okay, right? So let me just do that, and then figure out the rest later. And and then so throwing stuff at that person and all the accusations and making assumptions about how they're feeling. I don't even know what the fuck I'm feeling. And now you're telling me what I'm feeling. It's again it's a recipe for disaster. And but it comes from people from the outside. They tend to look like, oh, this person doesn't care. Or you must not care because you don't want to talk. No, I care a lot. I'm incredibly emotional. I just want to handle this the right way, and I don't know what the right way is. So let me take a time out, right? Because I'm leaning towards handling it in a way that I know is not the right way. So at least let me reset a little bit. But trying to convey that with your words in the moment is pretty difficult. But from the outside, it can appear that people don't care or you didn't learn your lesson. Look at you. You just got out and you over here getting in a fight at the store. I told the story in one of my earlier videos about the Subway sandwich. I got angry with that kid, very angry, and was very close to hurting him, but for the grace of God, right? But anger was secondary. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was scared. I was nervous. I was insecure. I was all of that stuff before I was angry, right? And I think again that's true for a lot of us. So let me know if this is a conversation. I know it's kind of all over the map, but if if conversations around anger is something that maybe we can get into in a separate series, right? Like an anger management series, because the other misnomer, right? The belief is that anger is bad. Anger is not bad. Anger is healthy. Anger is necessary. Anger will keep you alive sometimes. Sometimes you need that protection that anger gives, right? So it's not, that's why it's anger management. It's not anger prevention. It's just being more mindful, right? And only getting angry when you're intentionally getting angry. A lot of us experience the unintentional anger, the the anger that's secondary, right? So learning how to recognize what happens before that and what to do with that reduces the times that you get angry, and that's obviously a good thing. But anger in itself is not good or bad. It's what we do with it. But when all you know is anger, it's just not good for you. It's not good for your body, right? It's very stressful on your body, and it increases the odds that you're going to do something stupid. Even though it makes sense in the moment. And we have all, a lot of us have faced consequences of acting out of anger. Whether it's going to jail or failed relationships or you know it, get into it with your best friend, like that's your dude, man. And the next thing you know, you guys are squabbling or whatever the case may be, lose a job. You know, there's consequences to acting out of anger. And so, anyways, let me know what you guys think, man. That was the topic for today. My encouragement, my suggestion, as you start to feel angry, as you kind of feel it building, that's a sign that there was something else first. And maybe not in that moment, but when you get a chance to safely, right? Physically, safely and then emotionally safely. When you get a chance to reflect, try to figure out what was happening before that. And we will talk ourselves into an angry rage, right? Oh man, you're gonna let them do, they probably think this, they're probably doing that. They're probably, that's the anxiety we're talking about. And we will talk ourselves into being fucking furious, but based on just our own little hamster wheel, not actually based on, independent stuff around us, just what we're telling ourselves. Oh, that person probably thinks this. That person's over there thinking that. This is why they did this. This is what she means. Oh, they think you're this type of person. Like, but I still think that that's part of the defense, you know, because we know what to do with that. I know how to react if I feel like somebody's trying to punk me. I know how to react if I feel like somebody doesn't like me or they're an enemy or they're opposition. A lot of other situations, I don't really know how to act, right? I mean, I'm better at it now, but in general, we don't necessarily know what to do. Um, so we talk ourselves into something that's familiar, even though it's not healthy, and and it can be catastrophic consequences. So help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. Help your community because they need you. I know this is kind of all over the map. This video. Let me know what you guys think. It's not the most polished. There's no outline or whatever. This is me thinking out loud, honestly. But sometimes some of you guys like these types of videos. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Take care.